I get so many emails, DMs, text messages where it's like, hey, just listen to this episode and I just want to let you know this really resonates with me. Here's my story. Thanks so much. If there's anything we can do to help, we appreciate everything that you do. Keep doing it. All of those people and listeners who thank us for this is a way for you to give back, support the podcast, support what we're doing, and invest in the future of our podcast, the future of your company, all the information, the conversations, the questions, all the knowledge that we're passing along. This is a way for you to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to download that because that's something I want to know. And this is going to keep this podcast going. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. I hope you guys are having a good week. It is currently Wednesday. No, sorry, it's Tuesday. Nick and I bumped our podcast today, so I was thinking it was a day late. But it's my normal day. It's Tuesday. I was not thinking that it was Tuesday, but it is. I wish it wasn't my normal day. We are having a top 10 weather day here in New Jersey. Let me look up what it currently is. So it's currently 70 out, and it's going to a high of 73, and it's sunny. All it makes me want to do is go load my dirt bike up and spend the day in the woods. Everything's turning green out there. I actually popped out yesterday for a little bit with Selby. I haven't had a chance to get out with her. We were away, and then softball started up pretty much full swing. Literally the evening we got back, our flight was delayed. We got in Tuesday late morning. She had a scrimmage Tuesday night. Tilly's softball started, so it's been nonstop getting back. A very hectic week last week, trying to re-enter and get things set up. We had a window install last week that Justin came down and helped me with to wrap the week up. And then softball this weekend. I went riding 2 days this weekend, which was really nice. It's just a perfect time of year. Woods were a little bit crowded on Sunday, but I went out with a small group. And I haven't had a chance to get out with Selby. She's just been busy with school. She's getting to the age where hanging out with her dad isn't the coolest thing in the world. But I texted her when she was at school, so she has an Apple Watch. And I texted her and was like, hey, do you want to, after school, they get off the bus at like 3:45. I was like, I can wrap my day up. We can head out in the woods for a little bit. So we did that. Didn't go too far, maybe rode 12 miles or so. And it was just so nice. We took like a 15, 20-minute break, sat on a log. We're just talking. It's one space that I can spend time with Selby without her sister. Her sister doesn't really love to ride as much as she does. Where it's just the two of us. Rachel obviously has no interest in this. So it's just something that I have with her that I really do enjoy. She gets to be herself, and we just get to have like this really unique relationship outside of our relationship as a family, outside of, it's almost as if Selby is independent of who Selby is when she's with her mom and her sister and me. It just gives her an opportunity to experience just me and just me undivided to her. And same thing goes for me. So I really do enjoy it. I was sitting out in the woods yesterday, just looking around. It was so quiet. It's a Monday, so nobody's really out there. Busier on the weekends, and was just thinking how nice it was, and how lucky I am to have that so close and find something that I enjoy and gives me so much peace of mind. Yeah, but that was fun. A nice little treat for myself and for her on a Monday afternoon. I'm catching up on emails from listeners. I had a couple consulting calls last week. As always, if you guys are looking to book some sort of consulting, shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. We can dig into whatever you like. So for them, the structure that I recommend to people is we set an hour aside. I usually block a little bit of extra time in case we run late, that I'm not like, we're in the middle of something, I'm like, "Yep, time's up, that's it, it's called a wrap." um I'm usually only booking them a week to 2 weeks out in advance, just because my schedule sometimes changes, and I don't know what I may need to do, and I just don't want to put that much pressure on myself. So it's a little bit last minute. I understand if it's something that you want to book out in advance, we can do that. But I just try not to load my schedule 3-4 weeks out in advance when I don't know what that Tuesday may bring. um, so typically recording them on Tuesdays, blocking out a little over an hour, even though I'm setting an hour aside for the calls. And then what tends to work best is either try and nail down a handful of rapid fire questions where it's like, hey, I have these 10 things that I want to touch on. And that gives us, 5 minutes or so to touch on each subject. Or pick one or two things that are really important to you that you want to work on or gain some insight on, so we can spend a little bit more time digging into those things specifically. So that's what ends up working best. Um, I just got an email. Actually, it came through the producer from an older gentleman named Pat, who is retired now, but it was in response to a blog post of mine from, I don't know, a month or two ago, maybe longer, when I was, the need for change and for always wanting something else, and a lot of times not being completely content with where you are and what you're doing. I'm not going to dig into his note, but it was fairly comprehensive. Maybe I can reach out to him, see if it's something that we can post on the website. But it was just um, an older gentleman's perspective on life and raising a family and career, and affording yourself enough room to um, welcome opportunity and change, while also understanding that you don't necessarily need to be 100% absolutely ecstatic and happy with where you are and what you're doing at any given moment. That sometimes work and where you are is a means to an end, and it's part of the bigger picture. And but also, again, leaving yourself enough opportunity that if something comes across your plate and it seems like a good opportunity for you, or situation or experience, knowing that you can possibly do that and that you're not stuck in a corner. And just that a lot of what I'm feeling is not unique to me. This Other people experience this and have experienced it, and they've come out alive. That One part of the conversation that really stuck out to me um was that having success and having what other people, right, there could be two people in the same situation, in the same job, um that's a great situation by all standards, and what society would define as successful. And one person can be so happy with it, and one person can be so unhappy with it, and it's for different reasons, and it's not right or wrong. And that he's gotten by in life with less and with more, and while getting by with more isn't necessarily what's going to make you happy or rich in his mind is defined by more than just financial capacity. That having a little bit more does tend to make life a little easier, and if he had to choose between the two, and this is not saying this guy was not saying that he was rich. That's not the point of this conversation. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. But that having a little bit more means made life a little easier for him, with the large family that he and his wife decided to raise. But essentially, at the end of the day, things worked out the way that they were supposed to, and he was open to change, and he allowed change, and he took the necessary risks in life that he felt he had to. In that, not every experience and situation in his life was he it wasn't perfect and it wasn't ideal, but the big picture, it got him to where he felt he should be, and where his life worked out. And at this point, he's retired and his kids are grown and everything else. But he has this 1,000-foot view where, looking back on it, he can see which decisions and changes led him where, and that those decisions and those changes and those life choices aren't necessarily independent of each other. They all play a part in this, and the sum of all of those decisions hopefully lead you to where you want to be. But it's not perfect and it's not ideal all the time. So I wanted to reach out and say thank you to Pat if you are listening. That was a really, really great note. Um, it was I know that it took him a long time to compose that and put that down on paper. And I read it and I sent him an email back that probably was the email. He probably deserved more than how concise my email was, but for uh, time's sake, I kept it short and sweet. So I wanted to hop on here, excuse me, and tell him thank you because it's really nice. Maybe at some point, if he reaches back out, I could post that entire note that he wrote, because it is a Word doc or some sort, and it might be useful or valuable to other people, because it certainly was for me. All right, Pat, thank you. What else is going on here? I have a handful of things coming up for work. I wanted to follow up on podcast from, again, a couple weeks ago, where I had an issue with architect, a lead from a customer, and then referring an architect to the customer, and then somehow that lead going to another contractor. And I did reach out to the customer. I reached out to the architect and was like, hey, trying to hold myself accountable for what happened and why it happened the way it did and why other names were brought into the mix. I wasn't really looking to dig into why as much as just like, what could I have done differently, and just put myself out there as like, hey, this is what I expected in this situation and this is what happened. So I just want to know why I wasn't put in the mix. And in short, it was just a miscommunication between customer and architect, and um, possibly myself, maybe me not being upfront as much with the customer as far as what I wanted with the situation. So essentially, the customer was like, hey, we haven't signed contracts with anyone. Our ideal scenario and situation would be for you to do this work. We know there's other stuff that we have you doing here. So if we could get you on board to do all of this, that would be best case scenario for us. So I'm actually meeting with the architect this week to go over the scope of work and what other work I have there. So architect was apologetic, customer was apologetic. I just explained where I was coming from, and sorry, I was adjusting my mic, where I was coming from and what was important to me, and where I just my stance, and where I was coming from, and that I wasn't upset with anything, but just I found it curious as to how that all happened. But everyone, like I said, we're all on the same page at this point. I'm going to meet with all of them this week to discuss the job, the scope of work, how to move forward at this point. So that's a little addition on a kitchen renovation, and then a large front porch, front porch with mahogany decking. It's an old house. I think the main part of the house is between 200 and 300 years old. So that's an exciting job. I have a small kitchen renovation coming up in Haddonfield. My mom recently moved, so I have a kitchen renovation there and a bunch of smaller renovation projects over there that I said I would help her with. I have some cabinetry to do. It's nonstop. There's a lot going on. And I've spent most of my year to this point trying to sort out social obligations and really devote some time to podcasts midweek, some things that we are looking to line up for the future with the podcast. So I have not done too much work return customers, little things, odds and ends here and here intentionally so that I could spend most of my time on the back end of business, the back end of podcast, and really position myself to be where I want to be in this industry, which is hopefully a resource to you guys, and um, position myself in a way that I can create content and create information and tools and resources that help all of you, greater than my impact of me just working for a handful of customers a year, because I understand my reach is limited there. Um, that being said, Nick and I have discussed how we can help you. And again, all of this is posted on the website on the blog section, which is moderncraftsman.co. So check it out there. Go buy some merch. We don't have t-shirts, but I believe we have beanies. We have Hive notebooks. And the same thing goes for what I'm about to tell you. A lot of this is just a way for you guys to give back to what we are doing. There's not a lot of ways that we can just be like, hey, or that we feel right in saying, hey, you know what, donate this to us, or hey, can you know, you're getting value out of this podcast. How about you donate X amount of dollars to us? So we do put things in place like these little merch items, which help us create our community. They help us maintain our connection with vendors that we use, with Drew and his design team. They just help build this entire network and community that we are all things Modern Craftsman related, right? Because it's Doug, it's Motif, it's Nick, NS Builders, Tyler, TRG Home Concepts. We have Catherine on board. Drew's doing a lot of the website design stuff. Excuse me, of Harnish making merch. So there's a lot of moving parts here that we're just trying to keep everyone intact and working together, and we'd like to continue to do that. Obviously, that is with our sponsors and our partners over the years, included, which currently Builder Trend and Anderson. So that being said, Nick and I, we've spent quite a few years building up the listenership, the structure, the infrastructure of this podcast, right? Which is obviously me getting on here and having my midweeks, Nick and I recording on a weekly basis, Doug, Catherine, the team producing this content. Everything revolved around this, shooting specific content for Anderson, done some for Cucumber Brothers, stuff like that. That's all part of it. But all of that has been done in a way to bring in money to help not well yeah to bring in money to help us grow and be able to devote time and resources to this, because what Nick and I struggled with most for a long time, even when John was on board, there's a lot of hands in this in the pot, and all said and done, like the money goes just to rebuilding. There's not a lot of profit. And the hardest part about that is not that, hey, we devoted, however many hours or weeks each year. It's not about recouping that time lost as much as being able to feel as though we can carve time out or put time aside for this. Because at the end of the day, when we have a family, bills, just like you guys, if week in and week out, year after year, you're devoting time to something that consumes a lot of you, at what point is somebody going to turn to you and be like, maybe your wife, be like, hey, listen, this is a lot of your time. If you just took that day a week and you put it towards work, we'd be in a much better situation. That's never been the conversation, but we don't want to position ourselves to the point where it's like, hey, we're not breaking even. Um, eh, we're not really pulling a profit, but like breaking even. If we were not, right, we're funding a lot of this, and that's a difficult thing to do when you have a family, you have a business, you have responsibility and everything else, where it's an investment of your time, but also we've gotten to the point where we're actually footing the bill for a lot of things, right? Because we don't have as much time as we'd like to devote to this. So we can't really just say it's sweat equity at this point. There's people in place that get paid on the monthly basis that we need to be able to offset those costs. And then turning a profit, yeah, that'd be nice. We've devoted a lot of time to this, and truth be told, it would be nice to get compensated for that. Um, Never been a priority, but I would definitely take that. And I'd lie if I said that I wouldn't. So Nick and I and Doug have been scratching our head for years, right? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? And we recently had the idea where there's only so many hours in a day. I understand my capacity with my business, family, Nick, the same, where it's like, how much time can we devote to this on a weekly basis? Is there a way that we can put in and invest time up front where it can continue to prove value for all of our listeners for years to come? So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start putting templates. We're going to start putting courses, filmed content, Word documents, informational articles, stuff on the website for you listeners to be able to download. Right now, all we do is we offer some consulting. So it's like, you want to hop on a consulting call, it's X amount of dollars per hour. But again, that's based on our time. That's a every time that we have to invest that hour of our time, that cost is unique to that hour, to that caller. Is there a way that we can invest that time up front, and then the cost of that the initial investment is lower because it's spread out over something that can just constantly regenerate itself? So that's the idea with this, right? You don't want to hop on a consulting call. Maybe there's something that we've already discussed, and you can get the information that you need on the website by downloading a form, by downloading a template, by downloading a calculator, by downloading an article, a video article, and how to. We want to start populating the website with information like this that you listeners can use to help you and your business. A lot of lessons that we learned, all of this information out there, we put out there for free at one point or another. But it's like, do you want to dig and claw your way through the internet and the archives over the past 5-6 years to try and find this stuff? So we are looking to invest in this heavily, to create this really catalog of information that is relevant to Nick and myself, and stuff that we've learned over the years and that we are currently using to run our businesses, and just make informed decisions. So that is the goal and the next step for us. Nothing really is going to change on the podcast front. That's still all going to be a recording on a weekly basis. But we there's a few things that we need to do that. One, we need to be able to contact um, anyone who may be interested in this. So if you've been an avid listener, if you've been a follower, we are going to start reaching out to. We're putting the systems and the processes in place to start um, getting some contact information from you. Most likely email, right? Where it's like, hey, Tyler just uploaded this new course. Check it out here on the website. Just so that we can keep in contact with you. Hey, new podcast drop today, um, with so and so, or Tyler digs into this, just to keep you in the loop as to what's going on. Um, because again, we're putting a ton of work into this and a ton of effort into this. And a lot of times, with life being so busy and so chaotic, and the algorithm and everything else as to what's going on, we would like to remain as relevant to you as possible. So we will be putting that into place soon. Nick's working on that. But if we do reach out to you, we would love if you could just get us that information, so that we could just keep in contact with you as much as possible. That would be a huge ask, and I want to thank you in advance for doing that. So that's the one of the first steps for this. And then the second step, we are beginning to populate and feed that catalog right now. I think upfront, initially, as we get our feet wet, it's going to be more article driven, form template driven, I know I just did one. Basically, I have people with paint all the time ask me, what tips do you use? What sprayer do you use? How are you applying that finish? What finishes do you prefer? So I just wrote an article for house painting, interior house painting, which it's like all of the primers, wall paint, ceiling paint that I use on almost every job, and a couple of options for that, where it's like, depending on what you're doing, you can use this. This is a different price point. This is readily accessible. So I wrote I constructed a document that basically tells you all of these products, where I get them, so that you don't have to ask me that a million times, and that you can get your hands on that article and just have instant value there, where it's like, okay, I know that this works. I know that this is the potential pitfalls of that. I know the price point of that. This is a really good system. You could pair any of these things together and it's going to work for you. So I think initially it's going to be a lot of stuff like that. Once we start getting this up and going, and we're offsetting the costs of that, I think that we will be able to carve time aside to start creating some video content for this, where it's like, hey, you want to see exactly how I do this, or how Nick does that, or a conversation that we recorded at a trade show that you weren't able to come to, we can record them, put them on the website, and you can be there essentially. So that's the goal for us. I think that it's a really good way to invest in ourselves. Um, we've always tried to fund this as much as possible internally with as few sponsors as possible, because realistically, we don't want, I mean, we really value our sponsors and we don't want to dilute our sponsors. They have been super generous to us. They've believed in us, and they've really stood behind us since the get-go. And to just say, okay, we're bringing on more people, I think that it dilutes the sponsors that we have right now. It also is just filler that all of you listeners probably would prefer not to hear. So if we can find an avenue where we don't necessarily need to go that route, and obviously this will depend on feedback from you guys and the support of you guys as well. But I get so many emails on a monthly basis where people are just reaching out, and emails, DMs, text messages, where it's like, hey, just listen to this episode and I just want to let you know this really resonates with me. Here's my story. Thanks so much. If there's anything we can do to help, we appreciate everything that you do. Keep doing it. All of those people and listeners who thank us for this is a way for you to give back, support the podcast, support what we're doing, and invest in what we're doing, the future of our podcast, the future of your company, all the information, the conversations, the questions, all the knowledge that we're passing along. This is a way for you to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to download that because that's something I want to know, and this is going to keep this podcast going. So again, just like merch, t-shirts, all that stuff, this is just an opportunity for you to really support this community, and support our industry, and support what we're doing, and realistically make it the best that it can be, because the more time we can devote to this, the better it's going to be. I think that it's gotten, and this is me selfishly speaking, looking at it from my point of view, but I would say that it has gotten incredibly better. And right, there's certain things that we've gotten away from that I realize, hey, we need to get back to our roots. But like overall, from a production standpoint and from a consistency standpoint, Nick and my interviewing skills, adding the midweeks in, I think that it's gotten considerably better. There are some things that I want to get back to. I want to get back to a lot of owner operators, carpenters, tradesmen, because like that's what I am, and that's what I believe a lot of our industry consists of. And I know that over the past year or so, we slowly went towards more professionals and more GCs and architects and design and software and everything else, and that happened really fast. I guess maybe it didn't happen fast. I mean, in hindsight, it did. It was a slow progression getting there, but like looking back on it, it's like, whoa, we went from this to this really quickly. Even though it was over the course of a year or so, but I really do want to get back to grassroots, some owner operators, and blend a lot of that in. So the perspective is from many various vantage points within the industry. So that being said, definitely reach out to us. You can reach out to me, Tyler at trghomeconcepts.com. You can DM the Modern Craftsman Instagram account. I know that there's a producer email on the website. So send out guests that you want, somebody who you want to speak to, who you think would be a good conversation, that you would like to pick their brains, even if it's like, hey, get this guest on, and then also here's some questions that I would ask for them. That would be immensely helpful for us and for the podcast, because realistically, we want to be putting out information and content that's relevant to you and helps you. And maybe it's somebody that you may have trouble contacting, or you're not comfortable asking those questions. And I'm sure that Nick or myself would find a way to be comfortable doing that. So if there's certain guests that you want on, definitely reach out to us. If there's certain information that you would like access to or want to see on this website, whether it is pricing structure, whether it is contract related, if it is tool related, if it is technically related, right? If it's, hey, I want to know how you lay out built-ins. Maybe that's something that I figure out how to put down on paper and then record a video or screen share my Google SketchUp technique for how I do that on my level and what I do with my business. If it is managing customer relationships with designers, with architects, all of that we can create content around. But I just want to know what's important to you. So feedback on that, or documents that you find would be helpful to you or other people in the industry, please, please, please reach out to myself or Nick, or the Modern Craftsman account, and let us know so we can get working on that. I'm going to continue to devote a fair amount of time to this per week, because it's something that I found a lot of enjoyment in, a lot of fulfillment in. I'm still working for customers, and that will always be the case. But to work for a customer for 6 months, 3 months, that's where a lot of my energy goes. And I feel that my impact is limited. um, if I can spend more time helping more people, there's a lot of fulfillment there. And I appreciate it. And it's something that I enjoy at this point in my career. So I would love to be able to devote more time to doing that. It feels good. I enjoy it. And it's something that's been making me happy. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. I hope you all are having a great week. Again, we're having amazing weather here today. I wish I was outside, but I have a few things to do. Busy with work coming up, and I'm wrapping up some traveling for family, for business related. So I'm hoping to really dig my heels in and get going here. But in the meantime, please reach out again. Any guests that you want, anything that you find would be useful to you that you'd like to see up on the website, let us know. And again, when we start to compile this list of listeners and emails, so that we can contact you with news and updates to what we're doing, products that are going on the website and everything else, if you could help us out and do that for us, and then also spread the word, we would greatly appreciate it. All right, guys, I'll catch you next week.